poems, debate, a request for help, and a few verses at the end to calm us all down. Welcome to this week's Poetry Pea. I'm Patricia, and I'm delighted to have your company. In this episode, I'll be sharing some wonderful poetry from our recent video prompt, opening up a little debate about fairness in the haiku world for you to think about, asking for a touch of help from you, and then closing with more poetry from our community to calm me down and perhaps soothe you too. First, a big thank you to Amy Watson for editing and curating the August video prompt. We've had a first this time. A couple of poets managed to have 2 poems chosen. Proof, if proof were needed, that it's always worth writing a few pieces for our video prompt editors to enjoy. This month, do head over and give your support to the lovely Neena Singh, who's curating September's edition on the theme of beach activities. Go and check it out, and don't be shy. As I said, leave as many poems in the comments as you feel inspired to write. That's the only way they can be considered. I can't wait to see which ones Neena selects. As for the tango-themed prompt Amy curated, you won't hear all the chosen poems today. Some will be included as bonus pieces in the upcoming journal. So let's get started with some poetry. Thanks to everyone who submitted. Congratulations to those whose work was chosen, and a very big hug to Amy for reading all your submissions and selecting the poems you're about to enjoy. Old Steps, New Tune, College Reunion. Old Steps, New Tune, College Reunion. Vipanjit Kaur. Pizzicato, the fiddler tickles a dancer's feet. Pizzicato, the fiddler tickles a dancer's feet. Robert Whitmer. First performance, the prosthetic step, perfect with his. First performance, the prosthetic step, perfect with his. Padma Rajeswari Tata. Did you enjoy that poem with the peppering of peas? Sway of hips, the night itself set spinning. Sway of hips, the night itself set spinning. Neena Singh. Neena, I wish I was a bit younger and my hips a bit more flexible. I could certainly do with that when I dance. Public display of affection, the tango. Public display of affection, the tango. K. Schwartz. Intertwined, the fruit fly's last waltz into vinegar. Intertwined, the fruit fly's last waltz into vinegar. David Cox. Interesting where David's mind went with that particular video prompt. That's what I like about the video prompt. When you find so many things sparked in people's minds. And while we're talking about David's poem, that sent the two of us talking about ways to get rid of fruit flies. And we both agree that add a little bit of washing up liquid, and our personal favourite is fairy liquid. Others are available, of course. Into the vinegar, and that works a treat. There you go. Poetry and home help here on the Poetry Peacast. Thanks, David. Tango we twist through to bring roses. Tango we twist through to bring roses. Sarah Mahina Cabello. Folklore Fest. He swings her over his head. Folklore Fest. He swings her over his head. Rupa Anand. The last tango, you limbs entwine. The last tango, you limbs entwine. Melissa Dennison. Before hip replacements, the passionate tangos of our yesterdays. Before hip replacements, the passionate tangos of our yesterdays. Tracy Davidson. I'm not quite there yet, thankfully, but who knows? And now, quite a sinister one. Last dance. He whispers how he still hates her. Last dance. He whispers how he still hates her. Lakshmi Iyer. Before first night jitters, one more rehearsal. Before first night jitters, one more rehearsal. Paul Callis. And you know, this isn't our first foray into tango writing. We wrote some haiku and senryū back in Series 6 to a video prompt. And I thought you might like to hear some of them again. Tango passion, the sensual motion of her body against his. Tango passion, the sensual motion of her body against his. Kathleen Trockmott. A flutter of butterflies when he asks her to dance. First crush. A flutter of butterflies when he asks her to dance. First crush. Reed Hepworth. It takes two to tango. Red kite and the cloud. It takes two to tango. Red kite and the cloud. Elisa Terriana. Elisa, my dance teacher, Elisa, has many variations on It Takes Two to tango, depending on how clumsy the class are being that particular night. Anyway, now I have something serious to talk to you about. Some good news and some disappointing news. So, today I'd like to argue, I suppose, that literary competitions, including those run by the Haiku Society of America and the Touchstones, must be transparent, impartial, and entirely free from conflicts of interest. I've already spoken about the Touchstone Awards, and I'll put a link to the podcasts if you're interested. But today I want to concentrate on the Haiku Society of America. But first, let me acknowledge the good news. The Haiku Society of America's Merit Book Awards recently recognised One Thread by Janis Doppler, which is, briefly, an anthology featuring some of the most respected contemporary haiku poets worldwide, including me. She made a mess there, didn't she? It's an excellent book, rich in insight and artistry, and I honestly believe that it deserved to win. However, there's a fundamental problem. One of the judges for this award, Patricia Machmiller, was herself a contributor to the winning anthology. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear. I'm not accusing Patricia or indeed anyone of misconduct. But the principle here is crucial. I believe totally in it. What serious competition allows an individual with a direct connection to a competing work to act as a judge? Even if, I acknowledge, Patricia was just one of 26 contributors, the conflict of interest remains. And that's the heart of my argument. A prize, however worthy the recipient, is undermined if the process by which it's awarded is not beyond reproach. It casts a shadow not only on the award, but unfairly on the achievement of the author and the poets who contributed. It damages the reputation of the haiku community. The solution isn't complicated. It's common sense, isn't it? I mean, write to me and tell me if I'm wrong. No judge should have any connection to the works under consideration. Ideally, competitions should be judged blind, without the judges knowing whose work they are reviewing. Yes, I know, blind judging might be trickier in the case of books, but surely, if humanity can send people to the moon, we can devise a fairer method for poetry competitions. The Haiku Society of America and the Haiku Foundation are respected, established organisations. They have the resources, they have the reach, they have a reputation to uphold the highest standards. And with that standing comes responsibility to ensure their awards are run with transparency, impartiality, and fairness. And just to be clear, again, I'm not questioning the worthiness of the winning book, nor the integrity of any judge. It's about safeguarding trust in the institutions that claim to celebrate and uphold excellence in haiku. Without fairness, awards risk losing their meaning altogether. Can you tell I'm a bit wound up? I am, honestly, as one of the participants in the book, very disappointed. Now, as you would expect, I didn't keep my views to myself. I sent Crystal Simone Smith, president of the Haiku Society of America, an email to express my thoughts, and I have her permission to read you her reply. And it goes like this. Hi, Patricia. Thank you for contacting us with your concern about a conflict of interest in this year's HSA Merit Book Awards. We appreciate your engagement and understand why you questioned the inclusion of one of the judges in one of the winning anthologies. We discussed your concern at some length in our HSA Executive Committee meeting last week. The issue for us, in a nutshell, is that it would be almost impossible to recruit reputable, experienced judges who would not also be somehow represented among the anthologies submitted for a merit award. In this instance, there were 26 poets featured in the anthology. Patricia's contribution was 6 pages among 200. In some cases, for example the yearly Red Moon anthology, it's almost inevitable that a judge will have at least one poem or more included. It goes without saying that judges would not be allowed to give an award to a book they authored solely or with a collaborator. But given our relatively small community of writers and even smaller pool of eligible judges, we would end up excluding the best anthologies of the year if we stipulated that judges may not have any part in them. Okay, so that was that. Oh, I can feel myself getting riled up all over again. Because I must disagree with the reasoning she's put forward. You'd expect it of me, wouldn't you, really? The argument that it is almost impossible to find judges without connection to the works under consideration is, frankly, unconvincing. Yes, the haiku community is small. Yes, some of our most experienced poets will inevitably appear in anthologies. But that is not an excuse for lowering standards of fairness. There are at least 3 ways this could be addressed, just off the top of my hat. The first one I've spoken about before with the Touchstone Awards is recusal. If a judge has a work in an anthology, they should simply recuse themselves from assessing the book. Other judges can still provide a fair evaluation. It's common practice in other competitions, from literature to science. You can, if you need to, have a rotation of judges. You can even broaden the pool of judges by involving academics, critics, translators, or poets from outside the immediate circle of contributors. That would certainly reduce the overlap and would bring a fresh perspective into the process. And of course, I've spoken about it before, that things should be judged blind. And I acknowledge that it might be challenging to judge the book blind, but surely it's not impossible. The current approach, which Crystal has espoused, risks undermining the credibility of the award. Even if Patricia's role was small, 6 pages in a 200-page book, I haven't checked that, I'm going with what Crystal has said. The principle remains. It's a conflict of interest. And I return to my central point. The award is not just about recognising good work, but about the community's trust in the fairness of the process. If our competitions are not seen to be impartial, then even the most deserving winners will suffer from doubt. We must hold ourselves to higher standards. Our community might be small, but that should encourage us to be more careful, not less. If we as a community want to be taken seriously, we need to take ourselves seriously and respect the form and respect the people who write in it by having high standards. So now I'm handing this back to you. How do we make sure competitions are run fairly, are judged transparently, and represent the short-form community as a whole? To be honest, I don't think Crystal's reply gets to the heart of the issue. And if you feel the same way, please don't leave me alone shouting into the void. Add your voice too. I know we're up against an institution, but join me shouting over the wall. Let's raise our standards. It's simple to do. You can send Crystal a message via the Haiku Society of America's website. And if you've not heard my discussion about the Touchstone Awards, as I said, I'll put the link in the show notes to the podcast in which I discuss it. And if you agree with me about the Touchstones, drop a quick email to Robin Smith at the Haiku Foundation. If you agree with me about the Merit Book Awards at the Haiku Society of America, send Crystal the email. I'll pop both sets of contact details in the show notes so they're easy to find. Ooh, okay, I think we should have a bit more haiku to calm me down. Something seasonal. Something from spring, perhaps, which is a season of renewal and hope. a deep breath. The flower opens to the butterfly. I open to spring. Jennifer Gurney, Poetry Pea Journal 225. A flare of forsythia bursting out of my winter funk. A flare of forsythia bursting out of my winter funk. Kim Clue, Poetry Pea Journal 123. A snowdrop, a snowdrop, a summer. A snowdrop, a snowdrop, a summer. Joshua St. Clair, Poetry Pea Journal 123. Each day follows the next duckling. Each day follows the next duckling. Brad Bennett, Poetry Pea Journal, Spring, 2021. And to close today, I'm going to a little bit of summer. Leaving the fast lane, slippers, cardigan, teapot, smelling the roses. Leaving the fast lane, slippers, cardigan, teapot, smelling the roses. Clive Grucock, Poetry Pea Journal 424. So in a minute, I'm in my slippers, I've got my cup of tea to hand. I'll nip out into the garden if it's not raining, hopefully it's not, and smell my own roses. I feel a bit calmer now, do you? So that's it for today. Thanks once again to Amy Watson for volunteering to edit and curate August's video prompt. And your mission this week then? If you're listening in real time, please support Neena Singh as she curates September 2025. Otherwise, whenever you're tuning in, just stop by and see what's happening. Check the submissions diary. And if you feel inclined, take a moment to email the presidents of the Haiku Society of America and the Haiku Foundation to share your thoughts on transparency and fairness. And if you have any ideas on how they can do things better, I'm sure they'll be receptive. And one last thing, if you haven't signed up for our mailing list yet, please do. Who knows what delights might come your way. But most important of all, keep writing. And remember, October 2025 is our tanker submissions window. Don't miss the deadline. Ciao!